Asking Peter, did you know that refugees are great and you should always be nice to them? Because I think this episode really wants me to know that refugees are great and you should be nice to them. Here on Voyager, please. If I'll visit Voyager, my name is Joseph.
What do you mean the northern plains are uninhabitable? Living there is my decision, not yours, planetary government. How dare you? Your co-host, Peter.
Peter, what we watched this week?
Well, let me open the thing back up because this is a recording attempt number 2. Our bad attitudes on global policy and interstellar policy of
If this episode ends up being 30 minutes, it's because Peter and I have had a hell of a time getting it going.
Season 2, episode 10, Sanctuary.
It's teleplays by Frederick Rappaport, story by Gabe Eso and Kelly Miles, directed by Les Landau, in universe date 2370. Well, let's get it out of the way, Peter. If you're a longtime Voyager Please listener and you've been listening to us since we reviewed Ex Post Facto like 6 goddamn years ago, the term shithead means something to you. A kind of catchphrase we had developed to talk about sloppy makeup jobs that make people look like they just have, well, shit in their heads. And boy, howdy, I forgot sometimes that this is the early 90s and we're just going to get that sometimes. These dudes look like they're a bunch of hepatitis patients that haven't had a shower in 8 weeks.
Now I know what you're saying. I love a good low budget, low effort alien costume. And I also know you love backwards space Amish people. Rick, boy, have I got an episode idea for you. We take the space Amish, we put shit on their face, we ramrod a political message, however it might be interpreted in 1993, and we make a whole episode out of it. This episode was bad. I did not enjoy it. There's one little nugget of Dominion reference there, which, unlike Rules of Acquisition and having the bondage clowns name drop the Dominion, I really liked. The more I've thought about Rules of Acquisition, like I think that's going to be one of my high points for season 2, at least up to this point. But this fucking thing, you've got Quark being a good everyman.
Yep.
And that's going to be about it.
Quark stuff's good. Literally the only thing that I'm going to take away from it. Oh, Jake Sisko still got game. Jake Sisko fucking his way around Deep Space Nine as a teenager is a live topic.
I mean, Dabo Girl's a pretty high bar, I have to think.
Yes. I'm just saying, the young lad has done well for himself.
Jake Sisko, male gigolo.
But yeah, aside from that, by the way, Nog's in this show. We get to see him.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, haven't seen him in a bit. But this episode is a classic Trek fail in that it is preachy on one note, and it's so current day politics. But the current day politics was 1993. And yeah, refugees should always be allowed into your country. Stuff is certainly live here in 2025. But it was at the time, different era of this same question. And when Trek gets into that and doesn't have the grace of something, say, like Duet, that can play out an idea like that with a certain amount of artistic integrity and solid writing and performances, you get this, which just ends up being boring and kind of sucks. So let's talk about it, I guess. Let's talk about this boring episode that sucks. It's nice to have one of those in Deep Space Nine, like a clear... Ugh.
I mean, as far as the rip goes, we got to start picking.
You got to have a bottom three somehow. Like, clear entry.
That was hard for season 4 of Enterprise to pick the bottom 3, and I'm glad season 2 is taking pity on it.
2 of them were easy. It was 2 episodes, and then like which one of the ones in the middle that were kind of mad you turn into the third worst.
Yeah. What also sucks is Kira Nerese's current workload. She gets called into Sisko's office where he's like, "Where's my fucking report?" And she's like, "Oh, you'll have it tomorrow." And he's like, "Well, that's what you said yesterday." And the story here is that surprise, surprise, now that they've dispelled the evil phantom of the Circle, led by Frost Nixon. What's his name?
Minister Jarrow.
Jarrow. Now that Jarrow's been deposed, the government's still a fucking clown show. Still calling itself the provisional government, which at what point, I mean, you've survived a coup.
You're a real government now. You survived armed insurrection.
Are they waiting for elections?
No, they've moved from provisional to interim.
They still call them provisional government, though.
Yeah.
In this, don't they?
I don't think they ever are not. To be honest with you, like when I'm thinking about it, it's like, are they ever not the Bajoran provisional government? Jesus.
So, is the political belief that Bajor is on a assimilation course with the Federation, and why bother to establish a permanent government if everybody kind of knows that we're going to become Federation members?
I can't say, because that would spoil things. But an interesting thought. You should continue to think about it. The not Peter part of the Discord is now typing furiously.
She's arguing with ministers about irrigation. We're going to find out something, and I'm just going to start picking interesting things to talk about here because this is a boring episode. Apparently, this is going to go in one of the all times. We need to remember episode 10, Sanctuary. Did you know that Bajor is in terrible shape following the Cardassian occupation?
Azeroth needs your help. You need to go complete your daily quests in order to ensure its survival.
Now, I know what you're saying. Every time we've seen Bajor, it has been
beautiful.
Some idyllic pre-2025 terrible fires.
Remember LA before it burnt down? It was like that.
Just beautiful countryside, trick staircases, dream thought storm monster villages protected by knife-wielding magicians. That's all I've seen too. I mean, out of the 2 seasons, everything's looked like it's all honky-dory down there. But apparently there is just blight and famine, and the place has been strip mined, and
famine is so wild to me that's something that they are still saying exists on Bajor. Like, listen, here on planet Earth in the 21st century, famine is relatively rare, right? Like, and we don't get to make products out of, energy to feed people. We have to actually, deal with complex logistics and growing things.
Famine occurs when the leadership withholds food from the people. It is an engineered thing. There is some catastrophic failure of society. So Bajor, which has the Federation's wing over it and a Starfleet starbase just up in the sky, saying that they're having famine issues. Like this backward... I get writing for Star Trek is hard because you've got replicators and warp and transport and all these like plot killer devices, but they keep running into this shit with Bajor specifically. Oh, we don't have enough power. We're going to destroy this beautiful Southern California moon so we can like
there were farmers on making food.
Oh, hey, look at that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that tells me that if there is a famine on Bajor, that the Federation replicators that they brought in couldn't run correctly because you had a power issue. But then you had this episode last season that was a big fucking deal about how this moon, fracking this beautiful M-class moon, was going to allow you to get the energy to power all the homes. So, like, what's the fucking deal here? And unless there is a deeper plot that there's like another part of the provisional government that's like selling replicators out of the back of the truck and also like reselling the energy from planet Dirty Moon power through like third-party energy resellers, and somehow it's being redirected to like, I don't know, Ferengi batteries and Like, you're giving me these global dilemmas that you're solving for, kind of, and they're popping up again later. So telling me you've got this fucking famine is bullshit in the 24th century.
They should have focused on the strip mining, because that's like something that actually still tracks in the Star Trek universe of your entire planet's been ravaged and all of its resources extracted
Half-Life 2,
sloppily by a bunch of dickheads. And it's like,
Combine, just
yeah,
draining the ocean. Like, that's horrific. Okay, cool. Yeah, exactly what you're saying. They've destroyed this planet. They took all of our fertile soil. Some real Nazi shit. There's no evidence of it that they show on the surface, whatever. And when the entire thrust of your episode is going to be like, we won't help you because we can't, because of the Cardassian excuse card, it becomes a real stumbling block. So she's dealing with this provisional government. She's neglecting her duties locally. Sisko's like, you got to get your head on straight. And she leaves his office with her butt stinging because she just got, some coaching there, and gets a message from O'Brien that Quark needs to see you immediately. And my question is, given everything that's happened on the station, can you afford to ignore Quark when he asks to talk to you?
probably not. You probably always want to talk to Quark when Quark wants to talk to you.
I mean, he saved the day several times now, right? Like, wasn't he the one who actually found her location where the circle was holding her?
I believe so. His criminal contacts has come in handy a few times. He's even personally intervened to save the day. He has equal amount of felony murder or attempted murder charges that he has avoided. And that's kind of my headcanon, because when Kira goes down there to talk to him, and he's kvetching at her about how he agreed to host a very sedate but traditional Bajoran instrument player, and it's ruining his sales. And the conversation is that Kira is like in Quark's shit about not liking it because, it's like Quark said, why did I do this? And Kira said, because I asked you to. And it's like the subtext of that is because I let you off on your last felony. So you're taking this guy for a month. That's the rule. You are a
Because
criminal, therefore we bully you to do things in exchange for not charging you.
when you let that murderous Trill come in who was going to steal Dax with Tim Russ, and I got my ass fucking beat by a space hooker.
I still remember. I still have a concussion from that. All right, I still can't sleep right.
My ass beat by a space hooker at my work desk.
Yes, me, the former terrorist mastermind, got beat up by a space hooker in front of my coworkers at my desk. So you're hosting this guy for a month because fuck you.
And then she bullied me and said, "Don't make me come over there and do that again." And I know it was your
necessary, or was it? I forget the name of that episode.
Ops of Rage.
Ops of Rage. Fucking Kira getting her ass kicked by a space hooker might be my favorite fight scene of the season. Like, forget Sisko pimp-handing a Klingon across Ops, but like Kira just getting absolutely whooped by that hooker, and then taunted. Taunted her.
I don't think you don't see people talking shit a lot in Star Trek.
You don't. The writers were self-possessed of enough knowledge in that episode to go back and be like, quick, write some dialogue where this bitch says some shit to Kira about it and she whooped her ass.
Now, these enlightened post-scarcity Federation guys, like, they're too good to talk shit. But a space hooker?
She'll talk all the shit in the world.
She will absolutely come back to that well. So Kira has said to Quark, I will forgive you for allowing the murder party to board the station and steal Dax. If you take this boring ass musician, this Milli Vanilli motherfucker.
He's so good at fingering his stupid oboe looking thing.
He's got some chair leg they've painted up. There's not even lights on the fucking thing. It's just this terrible prop, and everybody's sitting around, and Morn is crying. Who Morn, by the way? Did you see that Federation science hottie hugging on
Oh,
him?
oh yeah. Morn's a player, man. Morn
Clearly,
Fox.
racking up Starfleet kills over there. Even Quark's own wait staff is busy watching this guy play, and nobody is gambling and having fun. And he's like,
I want you
Kira
to note that Ferengi extra that was like the bartender who just got like
is
told
a
to do
waiter,
work.
yeah.
Yeah, the guy shows up. He's like the smoldering catcher guy of Quarks.
Okay.
So like have your eyes on the
What's his
lookout for
name?
him.
Brash or something?
You Brack.
Brack. Oh yeah, okay. Space Ghost. There we go. The Brack Show. I'll spare everybody my impersonation. So this guy is like some really world-renowned, perhaps one of the like a once-in-a-generational talent. Much as the Federation scientists, they just let commit suicide by shuttlecraft. Here's this guy. They're great artists. He's putting pressure on Kira. Hey, I appreciate you giving me a place to play. I know all the times we've seen Bajor, it's like beautiful, skeevian little city centers and really nice, but everywhere I've seen has been industrial blight and strip mining. There's no place for me to play on Bajor. I got to come up to this fucking gambling den where they got bang rooms upstairs. This is the best place you can put me. When you're talking to the ministers, can you see about getting a concert hall fixed up? And that was the good part of, or one of the good parts of this episode, is a reminder that the Bajoran people pre-occupation were heavily arts driven and enlightened.
And that they've really lost something as a consequence of brutal occupation that went over decades. Their cultural history was suppressed, erased, degraded, destroyed. A lot of their population became a diaspora, and this has a consequence of what to do to rebuild your traditional society in the aftermath of the end of that. And it's the best part of the Bajoran story. It's the part of the Bajoran story that extends into deep space, into TNG, right? Like this episodes we reviewed as part of our homework when they brought in Ensign Rowe. Like this is something that Trek has been trying to deal with for a while, and it's a good storyline. I'm glad they continue to return to it and make you think about it. Unfortunately, I wish that was more of the focus rather than what it ends up being.
Again, this provisional government fucking sucks. This guy's got a hard point. We turned into terrorists. We need to for us to become a functional society, we need to not be terrorists. And music was a big deal to us. And here I am, the best musical talent in Bajor. And instead of being down on the surface by the people, under the wing of the government in, state-sponsored art projects, I'm up here playing at a fucking bar.
It's the best he can do too. Like it was good that he got to play at a bar.
So Kira continue. I need her to sit there and just be like, why? Remind me again why I fucking exposed Franklin Gallia in the circle. Like, thank God the Cardassian threat was looming and that the circle was so xenophobic. Because if they could have just been like, yeah, we do like Starfleet. We just need to get rid of this goddamn provisional government and make Franklin Gallia the president. Like,
that'd have been a win-win.
Yeah.
For sure. Rest of this episode ends up kind of clouding out any of this. So it's a good thought, but it doesn't last long because before the teaser is over, we get a ship birthed out of the local space butthole, and who should be beamed aboard but a race of people called the Screans, who are the nastiest motherfuckers you have ever seen. No lie, they look like they just got over a terrible case of smallpox. They have jaundice, and their hair
sucks.
Their hair sucks. It's pure shithead hair. They are awful to look at, and not in a way that feeds the story at all. They just made that as a choice, right? Like it isn't they're ugly because you hear about how their planet had like space radiation and everyone's now looks like they got fucking hepatitis. No, they're just this way.
And those pocks or whatever the bumps are scabs that just fall off. Like Quark later complains that they leave skin flakes everywhere. So the writer's room was
they're crusty in character. Like, ugh.
The writer's like, how do we make these people as other and terrible and like, I feel like really just take as many negative stereotypes from Eastern Europe as possible and wrap them up. So you've got like this matron class, like the guys are too emotional and problematic to lead, so it's a matriarchy. All of their leadership has been killed because they had been under the occupation of the
Tarogans.
The Tarogans, who had their own problems. We'll later find out when the Dominion came and kicked their fucking asses. And somehow the Skreans were able to get spacefaring, which that's going to be its own fucking plot hole, I think, is the fact that these guys with basically nothing have been able to run this Quarian migrant fleet for however long. The women are all dressed like conservative Amish boring ladies with like these big silly thin haircuts, basically.
Yes, giant poofy haircuts.
And then the guys are like this dressed in rags, hoodlum, street thief, like take any bad stereotypes of refugees out of the Middle East or whatever.
Whatever third world shithole you want to consider your refugees from, they're it.
Composed entirely of bad actors.
When we say bad actors, we mean bad actors that had friends or family members who were involved in Trek. The main Skrean, I believe, is Walter Koenig's son, and then the minister that we see later, as we hear about how the refugees aren't going to be welcome on Bajor, was played by Kitty Swink, who is Armin Shimmerman's wife.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I thought she was all right.
She was okay at best. You know,
for being the bearer of bad news, I thought she was good. Whatever the lead lady's name is, who's a space farmer, right? What the hell's her name?
What's the space farmer's name? Hold on. Tumak.
Tumak's the lady?
No, Tumak's... Oh, you're right. Tumak's the guy who gets killed. Hannick. Yes.
Deborah May.
God, every time I see a picture of one of them, I just kind of want to vomit a little.
It's terrible. They look like garbage.
It's actually like... It really took away from the episode when you're like watching it and you're like, I want to look away. You're just the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. And there's no reason for your being disgusting. There's no story. You're just disgusting.
You know who she is?
No.
She's a space cougar from the time they lied to Harry Kim about him being special. I think this is the one that he kills with the fucking vase.
He's one of the space vampire hotties.
Yeah, I wouldn't say she's a hottie by any stretch of the imagination. She certainly looks better as a space cougar than she does as chickenpox Ginger Alfred E. Newman. Ugh. I hate this episode, Joe. So in their culture, the women have male concubines, one of which was that her son or was that her mate?
God, you're right. I don't actually know the answer to that.
I don't want to know the answer. The other one, though, I did recognize. He is the dude who got the chest burster in Aliens Resurrection that would later come back as the murderous hologram that was shoveling fucking warp sludge that squeezed B'Elanna's heart.
Oh, yeah, I remember him.
Guy's got some pretty good roles in Trek, and then he's got this piece of shit where don't even let him fucking talk.
So that was her son, by the way. Tumaka's her son.
Terrible.
The other two are
not
fuck
to
boys.
speak ill of the dead, but his performance, like hissing back and forth with Quark. Quark was great. His body language, I did not mourn his passing in character when he gets himself got.
No. So let's be quick.
We can't be quick. Because the first 15 minutes of this fucking episode are playing the I don't understand you game. Mm-hmm. Which it's important to reinforce that there's different languages. And sometimes the universal translator doesn't work. And boy, isn't it hard when we have to deal with this. That's a good story for about 3 minutes. Not 15 minutes of this lady spitting out space gibberish while they walk him around the promenade. The guy has severe radiation burns on his hand from his junky ass ship that's fallen apart. And instead of just getting him to sickbay, they're going shopping at the local fashion boutique. They got Quark they got Odo involved, and it's just this Tom and Jerry bullshit that is the worst fluff I think I've seen on this show to date.
Like, none of them actually use their critical thinking skills to parse through how they're trying to communicate with each other. Instead, it's just goofy bullshit. Even though there's clearly like ways you can be like, she's pointing at herself, saying something over and over again. Oh, clearly that's your name. I'll say, take my name. We'll keep you talking. I'll communicate that you need to talk. Let's stay in ops where we can, what the fuck are you doing?
This is the same crew that less than a year ago just went through the events of Babel where everybody lost the ability to talk to each other. Like, their charades game should be on fucking point. This is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. It's probably part of their training routine. It's like 30 minutes a week. Learn how to communicate through body language and gesture in case our brains don't allow us to form words anymore.
In case our food boxes on the wall are trying to poison us again with gibberish.
The Bajorans did make this as a disease. They can make it again. We must be prepared.
Eventually, the universal translator catches up. 15 minutes later, she starts relaying all the information. They have no leadership. The Targaryens, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then you have a good moral dilemma because she's like, there's, 7 million of us?
Yeah,
3 million. There's 3 million of us.
3 million, yeah.
All spacefaring.
Quarian kind of situation. Yeah.
Flotilla of ships that are going to pouring through the wormhole into the Alpha Quadrant. And again, Sisko has no diplomatic envoy to deal with this kind of stuff, which has to be shit that like the Federation should be considering, like what is going to come through this wormhole. And if you don't have in the wake of this fucking diplomatic corps being established on Deep Space Nine, like it is quickly becoming the weakest shit contender for me. That decision-making stuff like this is being left up to a fucking commander.
Loxana Troy will do it. She wants just to be there to sexually harass Odo, and then she'll do her diplomat thing. She's obviously good at it. She can read minds. That's a good trait in a diplomat, to be able to read someone's fucking mind.
In case, the universal translator's not working.
Probably would be a big help.
There's a lot of this stuff that feels in this episode like it was touched on in Mass Effect at some point and touched on much better than they do here.
Yeah, Quarians specifically.
The Vorcha, or is that what they were? Also gross, nasty aliens looking for places to live and inhabiting stations. Like, these are the real kind of concerns when you are the post-scarcity utopia of the Federation and you just have these open borders and people can come in and whatever. What are you going to do with 3 million people? So
actually, I mean, this is what's amazing about this episode. They come up with a solution of, actually, we found a planet with no one on it, with great soil, and is perfect for you to actually colonize. Like, literally, we're just opening the door and saying, here, please have it. It's your planet. Like, a whole planet, it's yours, right? That's on the table immediately for all of these people. It's not like there was no option. The Federation went and found an option for them and said, here it is. We'll even get you there. We'll get you going.
We'll fix all your ships. Like, shades of K's on here big time, right? Like, you guys have no business being spacefaring. having all these ships. You're a bunch of fucking farmers turned starship ship captains, and you're out looking for this wormhole to get away from where you're at. Like, again, red flags. Like, why aren't you settling over in the Delta Quadrant or the Gamma Quadrant? Like, do you want to wave that Dominion is scary flag a little harder? Maybe, like, do they call it a religious pilgrimage?
Yeah, they definitely give it a sort of spiritual element. I think they call it the eye of the universe, and that they have a special name for their home world that
Their
they will find
promised land.
after they fall through it. So there is a sort of sense of spiritual destiny at work here. But that's they use that as a premise briefly, and then just use that to bridge over to, will Bajor let them settle? And if they say no, then it's because, Bajor is actually the bad guys, and they should have just let 3 million aliens in and fucking move to a part of their planet with no fucking way of being able to support life, and just go make a go of it. It's real dumb.
It's real
It's real
93.
dumb It's the best. It's the worst of both worlds.
So the fact that they also just readily have a planet available. I want to go back to the last episode where you had Professor Psytech, and the USS Prometheus on this.
Commanded by a man with no presence.
It wasn't even the fucking commander. They don't even give the fucking captain's name. You're terraforming planets, but you've got M-class just laying around. And the fact they just had a nearby planet that's great, that Kira doesn't even know about, like, kind of lends credit to the fact they could just destroy this beautiful moon that the farming guy was on to, like, energy frack it or whatever.
Apparently M-class planets are a dime a fucking dozen. The Milky Way, we just didn't know.
Apparently, so, like, you're kind of fucking up my understanding of the universe view in this corner of the galaxy. You've got a planet close enough with beautiful, fertile soil. How can there be a famine on Bajor? How can Bajor have resource problems if you've got these beautiful M-class planets that could be supporting the agriculture? Sloppy. This is a Ramrod episode about closed borders are bad.
Other good parts of the episode are Jake Sisko's game is incredible, apparently, because he's bagging Dabo girls. So look out, ladies. If you're on Deep Space Nine, there is a teenage lad who apparently will land the plane. And he's hanging out with Nog, who we haven't seen in a while.
Hey, she's just Dabo girling to get through college.
I've heard that a lot about women's studies majors.
No, she's, what was it? Space astronomy or what?
Oh, entomology.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, which I like. Nog's like, oh, she's becoming a chef.
It's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, Jake and Nog get into some shit. Well, Nog gets into shit trying to play pranks on the fucking shithead people's men, and like with a stink bomb, like it's 1958, and this
Very
ultimately
racist
results in something a little interesting in that he gets caught. Odo drags him in. Quark has to basically bail him out.
Who thinks it's funny? Like, that's the best part of the episode for me, is like, Quark is
he
totally
doesn't fucking like them. He wants them gone anyway, so he's happy to watch them be terrorized by his nephew. And then eventually, though, they come back and be like, yeah, we don't care about your apology. We're here to whoop your ass. And apparently the Ferengi, like, defense mechanism is to hiss like a cat.
Scream. The scream, for starters, which we saw his dad exhibit when Smoldering Murderer shows up to hit Quark with a concussion gun.
But fortunately for Quark, he is not presently have a gaping hole in his chest. He can defend himself and his nephew. And apparently it's hiss, like an angry kitty. but it
We saw
works
that in
better
Off
than
the
you'd
Rage.
imagine. Like he pulls it off. Like Armin Shimmerman like pulls off like, oh, like no, I'm standing my ground, and this is like a sort of like my response that my species has evolved to use against danger is to like bare my teeth, which is very like mammalian. Like you can see where like another humanoid species might have that fight or flight reaction.
I personally wish that when he had confronted the hooligan gang out to beat ass, that he would have pulled his belt off and like cracked it, and it would have turned into an energy whip.
You thought we stopped. You thought we retconned this. No, we just more effective.
Mm-hmm. It's a sleeper whip. Quark is very important in this episode because he is supposed to represent the negative capitalist human emotion, I guess, of like, fuck these guys. They're all over the place. They're not buying anything. They're a burden and they're fucking gross because their scabs are covering my bar.
It's like I don't know. Is this if this episode was genuinely meant to convey that the refugees were someone you were supposed to sympathize with? It did such a terrible job of that I'm like, yeah, Quark's right. Get the fuck off the stage. Like, stop lazing around, you bums. Go get a fucking real job. Like, stop being assholes and be good guests. It's not hard.
The flip side of it is Cisco, who apparently his death row charge bar was much lower than I had anticipated because he has reverted into like full on 24th century privileged human dummy mode where like Odo's stressing out about how the station that can only hold 7,000 people has 3 million people trying to like get through there right now. And Cisco's like, but it's worth it because look at them. They're happy. It's like, who is this guy?
This does not seem right.
What closet did you escape out of that you have replaced new Death Row Cisco with like crazy season 1 Cisco? So very Federation ideal of like, we can take any people in need and we can handle them excellent because we have unlimited resources and this beautiful hand of brotherly love that we are eager to extend in all directions. You get a little bit of side input from the Bajoran flute player or whatever, who is kind of like the moral compass on Kira's shoulder of like, these people are like us and they need a place to be and blah, blah, blah. Let me come over to Farmer Lady. What the fuck's her name? Hannock. Hey, I see you're in charge and I've brought you a gift. It's just a picture of myself.
I've given you the ultimate gift, me. Okay.
When he gave her a gift of his own performance, like at that point, I think Kira should be like, okay, you know what? Quark's right. You're full of shit. Get the fuck out of here. So
go ahead.
Cisco's like, hey, great news. We've got this real peach of a planet that we've been sitting on for just the right group of refugees. You're going to love it. We're going to fix your ships up. We're going to get you out there. And we're going to really just take care of you guys who have shown up here. And they're like, oh, well, that was thoughtful but unnecessary because we've picked where our new place to live is going to be by divine mandate. And it's actually Bajor. Yeah.
Isn't that great, everybody? Dun, dun, dun.
I enjoy that it's not a Federation problem. It's a Bajoran problem.
Well, see, what happened was Bajor, they just got done with a bunch of aliens that, you know, have a bunch of ugly, scaly makeup. And then they saw these guys come. This is what started going up from their head.
So I think for the first time, it's a series first for us here. The first time we've had that music play for Deep Space Nine. I don't know if this is the episode I brought it out for, but certainly the stakes were there for the Bajorans.
I want you to know something, Peter, in preparation for Deep Space Nine, because I didn't get to really use it at all for Enterprise. The X-Men Danger Room music is ready for when the holosuites cause problems. Like, I'm here, okay? Like, I got some of the old classics ready to go.
Kira's like, oh, well, that's surprising you've decided you're going to live on my planet. Well, we're going to see what the government the provisional government feels about that. And then we have the meeting at Cisco's ready room with the baseball on the table. Clock's not in focus, unfortunately.
I mean, every time you see that damn baseball, and it gets used a lot as a prop now, it's like, remember, that is a gift given to him by a fake version of a baseball player. Like, an alien impersonating an old baseball player gave him that baseball, and it shows up for the rest of the fucking series.
It's
It was like
actually
a bullshit season 1 episode, and that's just where it comes from.
It's actually a psychokinetic spying device that he has left in his boardroom table, and all of his intimate meetings are now relayed to that alien race of dream warriors. Or
it's a
whatever
mind control device. Cisco has been being manipulated.
Alien influencers. The Bajorans go, hey, we really appreciate the fact you decide you're going to live here, but actually we decided no. And she gets real indignant about it. Well, why not? We did scans of the planet. Like, you've got this whole northern plains area, and that would be perfect for us because in addition to having this fleet of 3 million people living in space, we're actually farmers, and we're really great. The skin falls off of us, and it fertilizes the soil. It's real great symbiosis.
If that had actually been the plot, like, this is why we're flaky, is because we actually we create our own fertilizer, so that's why our entire race are farmers. That would have made it worth it. If they'd been just that smart.
Idea has made me so fucking sick that I don't want to talk about this episode anymore. You have disgusted me thoroughly with these guys eating food that they have grown with their own dead skin. And they go, well, that area has been real fucked up by the Cardassians. It's bad. You've never seen it, but trust us when you tell you it's really bad. And the fact I know that Bajor looks so good, like, just further makes these government bureaucrats seem like they're even more full of shit because they've refused to show even 1 square inch of Bajor that's been inconvenienced in any way by the Cardassians. But you get this real indignant streak out of Hannock and the rest of the Skrillians or whatever. Kira, whose ongoing plot seems to be, I am failed by my government, and I represent a hollow organization that does not share my values, feels that this is not... Well, I don't know. Does she feel it's a bad idea? I think she kind of supports the decision.
I think she does think it's a bad idea. Clearly, when it came up in conversation, she took that stance. I think that the beginning of the episode is supposed to frame the idea that Kira thinks it's a bad idea because the Bajorans don't have their shit together. I think that's what they're attempting to communicate with that. But we talk about sloppy endings a lot. Trek does it. Trek kind of half bakes its last 5 to 10 minutes a little more frequently than we would prefer. But this is the worst version of it because they don't really do a lot to develop what Kira actually thinks the right decision is here. She just arrives at one. And like you said, the main alien shithead acts super unreasonable about it. There is just a dumb tragedy that happens that barely has any lead in, isn't shown on screen, and then just, ends. And that, that
I don't want
brings you to the end of the episode. Like,
shortchange the fact that, like, Kira feels bad that, like, okay, this ignorant space Amish race who's decided they're going to live on our planet was told no, and they didn't take it real well. And she goes by Hannock's quarters and be like, hey, I feel sorry that happened. And she's like, you pretended to be my friend, but you're not my friend, and I don't accept your apology, and you only want to be my friend until it inconveniences you. Just gets, like, real indignant. It's like, fuck you, bitch. Like,
yeah, like, I've been trying. I have been actively trying to help you. By the way, we found you a planet. We're going to give you your own planet.
I tried to get you a dress I thought you liked, and then you told me it was fucking hideous and you hate it. Like, you ungrateful bitch. Yeah, you're eating my magic space food while you guys
Is this episode supposed to convince me that refugees are bad and should always be rejected? Because because that's what it did. It's like, absolutely not. They smell bad. They have bad skin. They just eat things. They get into fights all the time. They're indignant even if you give them a whole fucking planet. Yeah, refugees are bad. Don't take them.
And while you are MFing me because I tried to be your friend and you're refusing an apology I didn't even give you, now my boss is calling us because your hillbilly son has flown off in your space hoopty to try to invade, to try and go storm the wall.
He shot at like this dipshit shoots at the Bajoran ships. That's why he gets killed. Is he shoots at them, so they shoot him back and they blow him up.
His mom gets him on the phone. She's like, honey, stop. That ship's going to blow up. And you cannot fuck around right now because you're real close to finding out. And then the police show up. Honey, please turn around. And the police are like, the sky cops, sky marshals are like, yeah, listen, we're under strict orders not to let any of these people bring chicken pox to Bajor because we got enough problems. This is by order of General so-and-so. So they start trying to like bully General so-and-so around about how he's going to run his military. And Cisco's trying to flex on him. And they're like, but it's just a kid. You can't shoot at a kid. And the guy's like, all right, well, let me tell these patrols to like back off and we'll whatever. And then the ship just blows up because it was going to blow up anyways. And shooting guns didn't help anything. So now Hannick has to figure out like, oh, apparently these guys are serious about us not supposed to like invade or whatever. So I guess we'll just get everybody together and go to this really nice M-class planet you've generously given us. And as we're getting ready to leave, I'm going to have my last clap back at Kira.
God, yeah. Wait, about how our people suck and how she should have said yes and we could have helped them with their famine. And clearly your planet is not a sanctuary. Talk about really... I don't think they could have made their case any worse, right? Just, it could have worked. Yeah, but it could not have worked. That was the whole reason we kind of talked through that. Yeah, but it could have worked.
Unless they bring these guys back up at some point later on and they say that Dinos 4, whatever the fuck it is absolutely thriving to a degree that nobody was prepared to see. And that these guys are like next level, like the Traveler grade miracle workers.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
That have just terraformed the shit out of this and like, was it Monsanto?
Yeah, they're space Monsanto. They're just like farming geniuses.
And like now Bajor is having to buy food from them at like ridiculous upcharges or whatever.
That would have been cool.
This is all just terrible. These are miserable people who look miserable and act miserable. And she tries to drop this like super stinging moral zinger there at the end that just falls completely fucking flat. And all you can say is like, good riddance, you motherfuckers, get out of here. Thanks for wasting an entire episode slot. Thanks for letting us know that the Dominion can fuck some shit up.
Yeah, I mean, if only they had eliminated you. Like, we would have been saved ourselves in this episode. Ugh, God. I'm happy to be done talking about it if you are.
Yeah, I'm not happy that we had to go through this twice.
But you know what? What are we watching next week? What's going to cleanse our palate?
Rivals, Season 2, Episode 11. Guy with a real cheeky smile there. Is that Julia Roberts' dad?
It is
Quark
not.
feels threatened when a con artist arrives at the station and opens up a competing bar. Meanwhile, Chief O'Brien is determined to beat Dr. Bashir at racquetball. It's a return of the B-plot.
Yeah, we got a classic A B plot, and the B plot is the Chief O'Brien, Dr. Bashir bromance continuing to blossom. So
How did this episode not have a fucking B plot? It's episodes like this that need a cheeky, fun B plot. This should have been the racquetball conundrum.
I agree. It wasn't, and instead the conundrum was having to watch it. But we thank all of you for listening to us anyway. We'll see you next week.